Have you ever become suddenly afraid of something that once brought you pleasure? Scuba diving used to be one of my greatest passions. The feeling of weightlessness underwater, the vibrant marine life, it was pure magic. This was in February 2020 when I had my last memorable dive in the Philippines before the pandemic. After that, I had to trade in my scuba mask and regulator for a different type of protective gear. It was not until the pandemic was under better control that I returned to scuba diving in February 2022 in Costa Rica, but all the familiarity of being underwater had vanished. Somewhere along the way, fear crept in and took a hold of me. I was anxious about being underwater and felt like I couldn't control my buoyancy. It's one thing to have a panic attack in an elevator, but it's another thing to have one when you're 18 meters underwater. My diving was so bad that the dive master almost didn't allow me to complete the second dive that day. How mortifying. Scuba diving was no longer an escape from my stressful job. It became just as stressful as working in the emergency department. I found myself making excuses to avoid diving trips. The thought of descending into the depths filled me with dread. We did not dive at all in 2023. This is the story of how I overcame my anxiety and reclaimed my love of scuba diving. Oh boy, this box I haven't opened since 2022 when I last went scuba diving. It has all of my gear in here. They say the best way of conquering your fears is to break the process into little chunks. So the first goal is to get the stuff from here into my suitcase. Okay, so step one completed. Got all of my diving gear packed into this half of my suitcase. Let's take a look at my diving log. I've only been diving since 2017 and have dove all over the world in places such as Catalina Island off of California, Australia, Hawaii, the Philippines, and lastly Costa Rica. They say you should try to dive at least once a year to keep your skills up, and there had been a 2-year hiatus during the pandemic. No doubt that the unexpected break took a toll on my confidence of being underwater. We decided to return to the Philippines where we last had positive diving adventures, specifically to Cebu, where it is famous for its many dive spots. Scuba gear all ready to go in our pink bag. Why pink? Well, when you go on enough of these diving excursions and there's a lot of people with dive bags, you want to be able to identify your bag pretty quickly. Good morning. We're off to an early start today. We're gonna go grab some breakfast before we get picked up to go to the dive shop. Diving is physically taxing, so it was important to load up on fuel. The breakfast buffet at the hotel was amazing. Don't worry, we didn't stuff ourselves. We had eaten a few hours before getting into the water, so none of our meal would become fish food. So the plan is for day one is we're going to do a refresher course, and then hopefully we'll get in 2 dives after that. The dive shop had arranged for pickup from our hotel. As with any excursion in the Philippines, they made it convenient, even though we would only be traveling 5 minutes away to the Shangri-La Resort where our dive shop, Scotty Action Sport, was located. This was a huge step in confronting my fears. I enrolled in a scuba refresher course to brush up on my skills and build confidence. I felt like being in my first open water diving class all over again, starting with the setting up of our gear that I once could do without thinking. All right, so we're going to go ahead and check our equipment here. There's our BCD. Okay, looks like that's all hooked up. Our regs. Let's see. Is the pressure on yet? No, air's not turned on yet, but they'll turn it on when we get there. Surrounded by experienced instructors and a supportive dive team, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could overcome this fear and rediscover my love for diving. We had already completed our refresher as a beach entry, so now it was time to put those skills back into action with an actual boat dive. As I descended into the depths, I focused on my breathing and allowed myself to be present in the moment. The weight of fear slowly lifted, replaced by a sense of exhilaration. Exploring the underwater world once again, I was reminded of why I fell in love with diving in the first place. The beauty, the tranquility, it was like coming home. I've never seen a school of sardines before, and I couldn't believe I would have missed out on this if I hadn't returned to being underwater. Not all went smoothly with this first boat dive. Towards the end of the dive, we hit some strong currents that it made it difficult for me to stay down for my safety stop. The anxious thoughts easily could have taken over, but my dive master was able to help me stay down long enough before I could ascend. Rather than beating myself up for struggling with the last part of the dive, I exercised some self-compassion and looked at the brighter side of things. I was determined to make the next dive a successful one. We headed back to the resort for our service interval and to switch out our tanks. Here we go again with our second boat dive. This time, I felt way more comfortable. Maybe it was because the currents weren't as strong at this dive site. I was able to fully relax and take in the views. Like these clownfish seeking refuge in the sea anemone, I felt like I was returning home underwater for the first time since 2020. It had been about challenging myself to step outside of my comfort zone, confronting the situations that once paralyzed me with fear. Little by little, with each breath, I felt the weight of anxiety begin to lift. I discovered a newfound sense of freedom and possibility. I could let my monkey mind go and appreciate the beauty and tranquility of diving. Goodbye, monkey mind. Maybe I'll be searching for sea monkeys instead. Watching the sea anemone sway back and forth in the water reminded me to stay loose and be one with the ocean. Just when I was enjoying myself, it was time to head back up. After all, our tanks could only hold so much air. And you know what? Conquering my fear was one of the most empowering experiences of my life. It taught me that sometimes the only thing holding us back is our own mind. That portrait of the school of sardine made me feel proud of myself that I had been able to get into the water to see something like that. Sharks are scary to some people, but then again, we all have things that make us anxious and fearful. So to anyone out there struggling with fear, know that you're not alone. Face your fears, take that leap of faith, and you might just discover a whole new world waiting for you beneath the surface. For me, it was about taking back control, enrolling in a refresher course, diving with a supportive group that reminded me why I spent all those years of diving in the first place. I will have another video of my dives in Cebu, so make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.